Blackhawks. Really excited to get going. We thought we had a really strong and productive camp, and game one, and we're off to the races. So really excited to get going and answer any questions.
With Connor Bedard, obviously we've been able to see him the first 2 weeks. Just what do you think of where he's come up to this point, and how excited are you to see what he can do from here on out?
Yeah, I think he came in with a very high level, not only of play but also high level work ethic off the ice, and so I'm excited for him to get going. I know he's really looked forward to this, and he wants to play for real the real games, and he's been looking forward to opening night here for quite some time. So excited to see him get going.
How has he handled everything? I mean, this is heady stuff for anybody, but especially an 18-year-old.
Unbelievable. The attention, the level of demand on him has been very high, unlike anything that I've seen for a young player, certainly since I've been around the Blackhawks. And it's just he's handled with a maturity so far beyond 18 years. It's been really impressive to watch. And he doesn't get much of a break coming in with some national games and Pittsburgh, Boston, Montreal, Toronto. It's serious stuff, but he's handled it very well, and I have no hesitation that he's going to continue to handle it in a very professional manner.
Do you get asked a lot of questions about Bedard, either from your peers or people on the street? What are they asking about him?
Yeah, I think it's certainly the talk of the team, right? And understandably so. Just lots of curiosity. What's he like off the ice, and what makes him different? Those sort of things. And so it's just a lot of the attention and curiosity is very, very high around him, and I understand it, and so it's obviously something I get asked a lot about.
Do you feel like you need to protect him at all, or try to shelter him given his age and everything? Have you felt that instinct at all?
I think you feel that way about any of your players, and then we've got some younger players on the team, and so I think it's a natural instinct to want to just make sure they're in the most comfortable spot and best spot to be productive on the ice, because that's their singular focus is the hockey and how they perform on the ice. But you know what, I think our organization, whether it's the PR staff or the business staff, and then the coaches and management, we're always looking out for the best interests of our players, and making sure they can only take on what they can handle. And then when you add into the mix something like Connor's experience so far is you stay in touch with them and make sure they're in a good spot, and if you need to dial it back a little bit, you have to, but we haven't had that experience so far. And you see how well he's handled things, and so he's in a good spot and he feels ready, and so we're happy for him. We're excited for him.
Trying to find that balance of the pressure. Is it a good idea to take this first game and use it as an opportunity to maybe start to define something special, or is it dangerous to put that much pressure on him?
Yeah, no, I think, one game, I'm sure people will draw a ton of conclusions. I don't think that's necessarily the realistic approach. It's, he's an 18-year-old stepping into the best league in the world. There may be some acclimation and growing pains that go along with that. But you know what, we're so lucky to have him. And from a team standpoint, it takes time for things to gel and for things to set. And so, we'll kind of look at it more in bigger increments and see what adjustments or assistance needs to be put in place to help, either the development of any individual player or the team, and just kind of go from there. But I think, 1 or 2 games is a little too small of a sample size.
Kyle, at the end of tonight, at the end of that first game, despite what's going to come down the road, what do you hope he's feeling at the end of tonight?
I don't know. I hope he feels happy with his game. He's got a very high standard for what he expects of himself. I think he's his harshest critic, and so you want to make sure he's taking it all in stride and being realistic about what he can do from a night-to-night basis and a game-to-game basis. But hopefully he feels good about his game and happy with the result. Hopefully we can come in and get a win on opening night, and he'll be satisfied with that. But I just hope for him that he's he comes out, has a good game, feels good about his game, and feels good about the team result.
How much have you studied like what the Penguins did to surround Crosby, or the Oilers have been trying to do to surround McDavid, or the Leafs to surround Matthews, right? Like, what's your challenge going forward over the next few years, and like what do you draw from the past, if anything?
I think you always try and take a little bit from everyone's situation, but at the same time, every situation is very unique. And so we talk about it, we talk about it at length internally, and we analyze it every day. And, whether it's Connor, Kevin, Vlasic, Kaiser, any of those young guys, Lucas, it's about putting the right people around them and making sure the right personalities and players are around them to maximize their development. And so, we have looked at what other teams have done, but again, it's so different from team to team, from situation to situation, that you just have to establish what you think is best and then try and execute upon that. And that's what we feel we've done so far.
Speaking with Korchinski on the opening night roster, is there one plan for him, or are you guys preparing for option A, option B, option C? Like, how do you approach that going into this year?
Yeah, there's no one. The plan is to just take it day by day and see how it goes. It's probably longer than a little day by day. As I said, we want a good sample size and a good feel for how he's doing and how he's feeling, and the positive steps that he can take. So we'll give that a little bit of time. There's a lot of talk around the 10-game threshold, and we're just going to do what we think is best for the player. In the end, if the contract slides or it doesn't, if we don't put the player in the best position to develop into the player that we want, whether that entry level lasts 3 or 4 years, it doesn't, or 5 years, I should say. He already slid once, but whether we get those slides, it doesn't matter if he doesn't develop into the player we want. And so we're going to just make sure that he's in the best position to maximize his potential, and we'll analyze that on a moving forward basis. But there's no plan, and there's no real ABC either. We're just going to take it as it comes and make the best decision when the time comes, if we have to make a decision.
The difference between playing 9 or 10 games probably doesn't matter developmentally a whole lot. But I guess, do you start thinking about the big picture about when you start look at Reichel's contract and when all these contracts start coming up in the next 3 years?
You do have to consider that. I don't necessarily think you consider that with respect to the development of any one player. That's probably more of a discussion with respect to acquisition and off-season signing, and making sure that we keep financial forecasts relevant and present in our minds when we make those decisions. Maybe not necessarily with any one player, and how many games they play.
The pressure on Bedard is so intense, like you're saying, and he's also 18, so there's going to be the ups and downs. Have you felt compelled to along the way, pulled him aside and just said, look, I know it's a lot, and we don't want you to feel like you have to be a Hall of Famer every night at 18 years old, just to ease that pressure on him a little bit internally?
I've had a running dialogue with him, but you see each other around the practice rink all the time, and we've got a very good and open relationship about how he's feeling, and making sure that he feels supported from a management level. But I think that's on a day-to-day and ongoing basis. That's a lot of those veterans in the room to talk him through that, and some highly touted players that came into this league and the ups and downs they experienced. That's important for them to be available for him to give that advice, and also for our coaching staff to work him through if he doesn't feel like he had a great game. Why? What do you think we need to help you with, and to support the progress in your game? And so I definitely will want to play a role in that with Connor and any of our young players. But that's the reason we brought in a lot of some of these veterans to support, and then also the veterans that were here previously. They've got a lot of great experience to offer and advice to convey as well. So we'll leave it to the whole group to help the younger players along in that.
To that point, how important is Taylor Hall in that regard? I saw something where he was saying, wow, after 20 or 30 games, it was, wow, this is the real deal in his first year. And he came in with all that hype. How important is he specifically to that support?
Yeah, he's definitely a key part of that. He's got being a previous first overall pick, and playing in the market that he did when he came in Edmonton with some pretty significant media scrutiny and attention. There's great lessons that he can share if Connor so chooses to ask and reference that. So he can definitely play a big role in that. And just I think with Taylor, we brought him in first and foremost because of his play on the ice, but he does offer a bank of experience that is quite unique and draws some pretty significant parallels to what Connor may go through.
I want to know what else stood out to you from camp, and did Kaiser's development surprise you?
I think the thing that stood out in camp was just the quality in the competition in for positions both up front and on the back end. I was really happy with it wasn't we went in with this is going to be our roster or anything like that. We let them fight it out, and some tough decisions towards the end. With respect to Wyatt, I don't know if he surprised us. We've been high on him, ever since we drafted him and then followed his career at Minnesota Duluth. We had high hopes that he would step in and be able to contribute right away at the NHL level. You never know if that's going to be the case, and we'll see if that is moving forward. But as we stand here on opening day, he's done enough to earn our trust and make the roster and play a significant role here in the first little bit, and then it's up to him to maintain that level and bring that consistency to the NHL squad. So his work ethic, again, on and off the ice is something that has really helped him in establishing himself here out of camp.
Are there any more definitive timelines on Kurashev or Blackwell?
Nothing definitive, just I think none of them traveled with us. So, the first couple games are probably unlikely, and then, reevaluate after a couple days and see where they're at.
It's been so long since there was a season opener without Kane or Taves on the ice. How do you describe just the new era and the excitement of what tonight can bring for this organization?
It's definitely a different feel, right? We, it was a very difficult decision to say goodbye to Jonathan and Patrick. They did so much for our organization, and starting out camp and not having them around was different. It was definitely a different feel. But it's kind of a new era. We're pushing into a new time, and there's a lot of interest around our young players, and that's exciting. That's not necessarily a level of excitement or intrigue that we've had here at the Blackhawks. That we've been in a different mode for quite some time, and now we're obviously going into this rebuild and starting to see some of the young players that are going to play a big part in the hopeful ascension of what we're doing here. And so it's just a different vibe from a fan interest standpoint, and then also from a personnel standpoint. A lot of new exciting faces, but also the absence of some very familiar ones.
I don't think we've talked to you since Jeff Greenberg left. I assume that's something you were in the loop about, and then how do you go forward, and does anyone's roles change, or just it seemed like you've hired a lot of people? I assume that.
Yeah, no, it was definitely tough to see Jeff go. He's been such an instrumental part of what we've done since he started here, or since he started with us. And I was in the loop the whole time in communication with Scott Harris of the Detroit Tigers, and then obviously with Jeff as well through the process. And an unbelievable opportunity for him, for his family to take on a role with such a great organization there in Detroit. And so wish him the best, and he obviously set up something that we feel is pretty unique and pretty special within our industry. And we've elevated Ryan Cruz to take over that department and run that department. And so we're extremely excited for Ryan and confident that he's going to continue on the great work that Jeff started. Also looking just for some of the great staff within that group to step up and take on a little bit more role in Jeff's absence.
Are there Rockford guys that, like Isaac Phillips, that you want to bring up sooner than later? Is there a plan for that?
There's no plan for that necessarily. I think it's up to, we'll see with health and performance. But, you mentioned Isaac and there's some young players down there. We had to waive Joey Anderson right at the end of camp, and there's players that are knocking on the door. There's players that can definitely play in a pinch. We're looking for all of them to kind of take that next step and really push us to call their name should the need arise. But opening day is for the players that the opening roster submissions for the players that showed best and made it out of camp, and so they're going to get the initial runway here. But this is the NHL, and you've got to prove your ability to stay here and perform. And so we'll give them that opportunity out of the gate, and then just reevaluate moving forward, and look for those players down in Rockford to maintain a high level and show us that they are ready to jump in when the opportunity arises.
Any advice for Taylor Hall being a new dad?
Get your sleep when you can. Yeah, and support your wife every step of the way when you're able. It's I was really excited for him when I heard the news, and then I realized we were going on this long road trip, and I just thought that's a tough way to start. But no, I'm really excited for him. You could see how excited and happy he was when he came into the rink, and everyone congratulating him. So really, really happy for him and his wife on the birth of their baby boy. And so not too much. We'll see if he asks for any advice along the way. I think it's just get to sleep where possible.
Would you say this is a critical year for Taylor Radish, being a contract year? What do you expect out of him?
Yeah, I think it's any player that's got an expiring contract. I think it's important to them to show their value and perform at the level they want. Taylor had a great year last year, and hopefully he can maintain that into this year, and then we'll let the contract details sort themselves out in time. But definitely looking for Taylor to play a big role with us and establish himself as a consistent everyday performer and player that can impact our lineup very positively.
We all silly like the mayor.